The Eastbourne Miniature Steam Railway series. Written by Christopher Audrey. Oily keeps things going. Sometimes the engines heard Mr. Mike and Mr. Luke talking about a diesel. He stood in a corner of the shed, covered with a blanket. Even when the weather was wet and not very many people came to travel on the railway, Mr. Mike always tried to use the steam engine. Oily's still in bed, the others used to snigger. One evening, after a very rainy day indeed, Mrs. Rachel brought mugs of warming tea to the shed. I don't like to say it, Mr. Mike told her, but I think the only answer is to use the diesel. The steam engines hissed in horror. You use a lot of expensive coal, Mr. Mike said. A diesel would be cheaper to run than you are on a wet day when not many people come. Later, the engines held a meeting. It's disgraceful, said General importantly. How can an oily tin box run the line like we do? What about me? Agreed Rachel. I pull the trains on quiet days, so what am I going to do? Next day, Mr. Mike took the blanket off the diesel. Don't be upset about what the other engines say, he said. They think you're taking their jobs away, but they'll learn. Mr. Mike was right. The only time the engines noticed him was when they laughed behind his back. One day, there was a birthday party. Just before the children arrived, it began to rain. It was still raining hard when the time came for the children's rides. The children didn't mind the rain. Mr. Mike pressed the starter. At once, the diesel purred into life. Sooner old oily than me, smirked General. At least it's warm and dry in here, agreed Rachel. The diesel took the coaches to the platform, and the children climbed happily aboard. The rain bounced off their hoods, and they sang songs as they went. They sang loudest in the tunnel, where their voices was all echoey, and Mr. Luke slowed down the train while they did it. Back in the shed, the other engines could just hear them above the noise made by the rain. I wouldn't be singing if I was out there, said Rachel. Nor me, agreed General. Maybe this diesel has its uses after all. It certainly beats getting wet. When the diesel came back to the shed, he found the other engines much more welcoming. He also found that a newspaper wanted him to carry their name, Eastbourne Herald. Now all the engines agreed that those steam engines aren't the best things to use on a railway. A diesel can make life much easier. As Mr. Mike says, the visitors get their ride whatever pulls the train.